Welcome to It's Personal, Finance Canada. I'm Christine Conway.
And I'm Cameron Conway.
And this podcast is a very personal look at personal finance in Canada. Welcome to It's Personal Finance Canada. I'm Christine Conway, here with Cameron Conway. And if you're in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, or the Yukon, feel free to find us at braunfinancial.com. This past week, of all things, I was reading The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, circa 2014, by Marie Kondo. A lot of you might know her from the popular Netflix show. She is the guru of all things tidy and definitely obsessed with the finer details of giving people peace of mind through cleaning up their environments.
Yeah, so hopefully this week's episode, as we kind of take this unique approach and throw it towards personal finance, hopefully this podcast can spark some joy. And hopefully a little less nihilism.
Exactly. We figured there'd been enough bad news over the last couple weeks. And no, we are not talking to you today about how to fold your socks or do your laundry or sort your storage spaces.
Or the unemployment report that came out this morning.
Oh my goodness. But there were a ton of crossovers, or maybe it's just my mind and how my mind works, but I saw a ton of crossovers from Marie Kondo's thesis on how to declutter your life, live a good, joy-filled life, and your personal finance. So even if you didn't think it was possible, stay tuned and we'll draw those parallels for you.
Yeah, so let's just take a quick look at kind of what her thesis, her philosophy is. Then we'll kind of start breaking this down in how to apply this to your own personal finances and maybe purge your house or buy things or less things. I didn't read the book.
But you did make me watch one episode of the Netflix series before I was allowed to record this today. So there we go. We're all a little bit wiser. No, I think the biggest parallel for me was the things that clutter our minds, they steal our peace. And there is evidence that if you live in a disordered or chaotic environment, that generates stress. Our brains physically respond to it as a stressful environment. So a lot of the problem that Marie Kondo tries to solve is actually creating peace by creating order and by creating structure. And I mean, my goodness, no judgment here. We have a 2-year-old, we have a 4-year-old, we both work full-time, and we have a crazy busy lifestyle. We are absolutely guilty of letting things go at home, especially when you want to kind of maximize your time with the kids. And at the end of the day, I mean, who's not tired? But I found myself picking up this book because Cam and I are very much looking for solutions in our own lives of how to create that peace.
Yes, every single little piece of clutter is just like another little gremlin screaming for your attention.
It is. And they kind of suck it out of you. And if we see these little clutter points as exactly that, energy gremlins, or things that are kind of draining you because they are stressful in their very existence, because they don't have a place to go and they want to go somewhere ordered, that is something that can very easily be addressed.
Wait, are we talking about clutter or kids now?
So before we delve into her thesis, I want to go back to a quick clip that I saw on Instagram around the same time I was reading this book. And basically the point of the person that was presenting is they were basically saying like, hey, you know what? No matter where you are in your life, we are not getting out of this alive. And people spend so much time in fear of judgment, in fear of standing out, in fear of other people's opinions that they don't really live. We stifle our dreams, our desires, our true selves. But in the end, people's memories are so short because we're also concerned with our own lives. We're also involved in our own fears. We're also involved in our own insecurities and our own efforts to stay afloat. But the point was that life is made to be experienced. And I think this is an incredible parallel as we're talking about stuff today, because the experiences are what hold the value. If none of us are getting out of this alive, if we're not going to be remembered in the way that we hope to be, then it only makes sense to place high value on the experiences, helping others, teaching others, building community, and finding those things, as Marie says, that truly spark joy in our lives.
Oh, that's good to hear. I was getting a little worried. I thought you were starting to drift towards the nihilism side of the spectrum. You kind of pulled it all back together at the end. But yeah, it's just getting some focus, it's getting some clarity, it's just thinking things through, which is something we talk about a lot on this show because this is the thing that we find people miss the most when dealing with their finances, just thinking things through and getting organized and understanding what you're doing and why you are doing. This is just like another, I guess, metaphor or system to kind of run a lot of these exercises through.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, what does this have to do with cleaning or folding shirts? I mean, maybe nothing, but maybe everything if we look at this from a concept-based place. So if we are saying that things that no longer hold value to us, that don't spark joy, should be eliminated from our lives, maybe we would look at our lives a little bit differently. And if we start seeing our material possessions as a mean to an end, maybe we would value them differently and place the higher value on the things that will give us long-term lasting impact. So I like to think of everything as an investment. And if you think of a memory can hold value over time, and it actually appreciates in value as you age. And this can be even more true if the person in your memory is gone. So this, in my mind, is what makes an experience such a good investment. It meets that criteria of growing in value over time. It's not volatile like the stock market. It's not going to wear out like your clothes or like your car. It can shift and elevate your mood, even your entire day, just by taking that moment of gratitude, giving it some of your attention, and seeing that if everything material is going to rust and fade and pass, even as ourselves as people, then maybe the experience of these moments should take a higher priority and a higher weight in our lives.
So I guess the moral of the story then is the only cure for entropy is joy and satisfaction then. But no, this kind of plays back into what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, how people are struggling with the day to day and how to spend their money. And there's all this extra strain and stress going on right now. So I guess the hope is to try and take some of these lessons and to find the little glimmers of the good, or trying to refocus yourself to enjoy certain things better. Or we're just going to turn this whole conversation into Stoicism versus Epicureanism all of a sudden now.
We're not. No, that's not where we're going at all today.
I've got my degree. I can say fancy words once in a while.
No, but we are going in the direction of decluttering our lives, decluttering our finances, decluttering this stuff that weighs us down and creates stress, creates this disorganization. And honestly, the stuff that we spend so much time stressing about or worrying about, like we saw in that survey from a couple weeks ago by FP Canada. And I want to pull back to some of her practical tips and what we can actually do, and also along that line, what we can't do. So this quote from the book kind of struck home for me as a planning professional, and I quote, "As an organizing fanatic and professional, I can tell you that no matter how hard I try to organize another person's space, no matter how perfect a storage solution I devise, I can never put someone else's house in order in the true sense of the term. Why? Because a person's awareness and perspective on his or her own lifestyle is far more important than any skill of sorting, storing, or whatever. Order is dependent on the extremely personal values of what a person wants to live with." Like I said, this struck a huge chord for me because it's so true of personal finance, and it's so true of the financial planning profession. I can help a client get organized. I can show them the way, but you are the only person that can do that heavy lifting for yourself. And if you find yourself in the position where you're paying someone to do it for you, you will have to keep returning to that professional over and over and over until you learn that skill yourself.
Yeah, it's that old adage of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Or you can throw a duck off a mountainside and can't force it to flap. You can kind of get people in the right general area, but they have to kind of take that initiative for themselves and actually start doing the thing.
Well, that's right. And until people choose for themselves that they want a new outcome more than they want the convenience of their current lifestyle, they will not do the hard work to change. because budgeting and the sacrifices of temporarily living on less, the things that you have to do to get ahead for a lot of us, recreating your skill set, teaching yourself the skills to earn more, all of that has to come from a place of desire to have a better life than what you have today. There has to be an internal motivation that is driving you, and those come from your deep-seated values. They have to come from within before you can motivate yourself externally.
So once again, we're back on the joy versus nihilism spectrum.
Again, this was not my intention today. Okay, let's get a little bit more practical.
From what I read of her stuff, that is exactly what is happening here.
Hey, I just finished the book. It's still fresh in my mind. What can I say? No. Okay, let's look at it from discarding. So one of her biggest tips is discard first. So get rid of the stuff in your life that is no longer serving a purpose. I would say, this wasn't in the book, but I would say the very act of discarding creates a disincentive to buy more, right? I mean, that's natural. If you've just thrown something away and you feel like if I rebuy it, I'm wasting money or I'll reclutter my space, you might take a second before you do that. And if you really like this new space that you've created for yourself by decluttering, you might start to equate that space with peace, and you might decide, I just want to keep my peace. And the same thing, the same principle, it could apply to budgeting as well. We could remove the clutter from your budget. We can discard what you don't need, what doesn't spark joy, and what doesn't serve a direct purpose. So a clutter-free space will have you looking at materialism differently, and it'll be easier to impress your friends if they stop over unannounced.
Yeah, for what I've seen with her, a big thing is about figuring out how you want to use your space and how that will bring the most enjoyment. So the argument is usually, oh, I can't enjoy this coffee table if I have like 400 things piled upon it in a very precarious way. And if a gentle breeze comes, it will knock the whole thing over and fall over. And then I'll fall over. And then the dog will trip and laugh at me. And you got to find ways to kind of organize yourself to kind of bring that maximum or even minimum or partial amount of enjoyment out of what you've got around you. Like there's pointless to have a whole wall of bookcases like I have. I have nothing in them. So that's my little spot.
Well, and sometimes in her thesis, the intention with this is choosing what to keep instead of just choosing what to get rid of. And there's a very different mentality with that as well. You're trying to distill down the items that will enhance your enjoyment of the space and not just be there because, right? Because you've always had them, because it always looked that way. And when you relate this to personal finance, if you take that mentality of intention, if I'm spending on what I truly value and I'm eliminating the rest, and if I can find joy in my spending because I've selected to spend on the things that I value, that's going to put much more joy into my life and into my budget. And I had heard someone else say recently that really we live our life one day at a time, right? The past, the future, those are things that exist in our memory or in our imagination, but really our experience of life has to happen today. The joy that we have, the good experiences that we have to happen today. And if you build a good day and you line up these good days, you've built a good life. So if I'm trying to relate this to my budget, I will not immediately try to cut out the things that I love all at once because the difficulty level of this will be very, very, very hard.
Yeah, and this is where a lot of people kind of fail at budgeting. They think they have to get rid of all of their fun all at once and just to suffer endlessly until the bills are paid.
Well, and this is the interesting thing if you parallel this to personal finance. If I save $1 by eliminating something in my budget that I'm indifferent to, or that it doesn't really matter for me, it's going to be easier for me for that process. And that dollar doesn't care where it came from. It's still being saved. So why would I focus on eliminating the dollars that give me the most enjoyment of my life? And why not make my life easier by cutting the things that do not matter to me? You can relate this back to Marie Kondo's concept of doing the things that are sentimental last. And what she means by that are these are the things that evoke deep meaning or deep memories or some feeling about the future as well and your need for security in the future, which is something that she talks about in the book too. If you have something that truly enhances your life, that should not be where you go first to save $1. You need to go somewhere easier first. Get that momentum, get that win, and then only if you truly need that dollar should you try to take it, but try and get enough elsewhere that you don't have to.
Yeah, so like some people, they enjoy their morning cup of coffee. So it might not just be getting rid of coffee altogether. It could just be get yourself a half decent coffee maker and save money. Like I just bought a 2-pound bag of beans for like $40 with shipping. That's like 5 cups of coffee. It'll last me a couple months.
Exactly. Well, and when you think about doing these little things that improve around the house, you have to think about the impact on your family as well. So she had a section in her book that I thought was really interesting, and it came back to a story that she told of when she was younger, living with her family, and she was experiencing a lot of frustration because she wanted a tidy house to her standards, and her family members were not cooperating and going along with her plan.
It did not spark joy.
It did not spark joy. Actually, it created frustration and resentment based on the account that she provided. And it's interesting, when you try to do something for someone, people can feel like they're losing their autonomy. They're losing their ability to create their own decision about the outcome that they want. And what a parallel to personal finance. So if I'm the person in my household that does everything myself and my way, and I'm setting the goals and I'm managing the budget and I'm the one in charge, well, number one, does my partner want this too? Do they feel like I'm doing something against their will? Or if not that harsh of a statement, am I doing something that doesn't get them where they want to go? Are we truly aligned? But beyond that alignment, there's this need for ownership. And I think ownership for a partner that has been less involved historically in the finance is something that is absolutely worth striving for. So think about it like this. If you have been doing everything for your partner and they are frustrated, or you are frustrated when you don't see the progress that you want to see because maybe they're not cooperating, and maybe they're not cooperating because they don't have that same level of knowledge about the finances that you have. They might not understand the severity of the debt. They might not understand what's needed to accomplish a goal. You might have been trying to protect them from a harsh reality. But that mentality is not a team-based mentality. That's not an equal partnership. That's a relationship where one person is in control and the other person has no power. And the best relationships long-term work when it's an equal partnership and the power and the responsibility and the choices are shared.
Yeah, this is where a big problem comes in, where essentially one person feels like they are being parented, or they're just living with a boss and they may not want to change or adjust or even understand why the other person is just being so dogmatic about these decisions that they're imposing upon them.
Well, and sometimes people feel like it's always been done for them. So they truly don't understand how far a dollar goes or doesn't go anymore in this economy, and how drastically, even over the last few years, things have changed. So how can you expect your partner to take your finances seriously if you don't show them? I want to go to a quote from Marie's book, which says, and I quote, "To quietly work away at disposing of your own excess is actually the best way of dealing with a family that doesn't tidy." End quote.
So am I understanding this, or does she just mean just clean when they're asleep and make things disappear and no one's looking?
You know what? She actually did that in the book. But no, the point here, this is not about tidying. This is about leading.
Never sleeping.
It's all that coffee that we didn't give up. It's a problem now. No, you lead by example. And I have a radical suggestion. I am hugely in favor of couples combining their finances. I'm okay with people having a little bit of their own discretionary income on the side, but if one person is largely in charge of everything and the other person has been kind of riding along in blissful ignorance of everything that's going on, that person needs a little bit of a reality check. You need to teach them. You need to go hands off with them and give them the opportunity to build a skill set for themselves so that they can truly see what goes into those decisions and so that they can truly be aligned with you in a way that's powerful because now they understand how far a dollar goes or doesn't go. So sometimes in rare cases when we know that the bills can be covered and we know everything's going to be just fine and not affect the credit rating and all be hunky-dory, there's a recommendation there for the right couple to separate the finances so that one person has a chance to learn and one person begins to take accountability for their part in their partnership. And that's something that cannot be done without that person being willing to accept this role. So if they've said, I like the way it's been, you're in charge, I don't want to know, that will be more challenging. Yes, you can still navigate, but you might have to educate along the way of why you're doing what you're doing and try to get buy-in that way. And on shared goals, I'm always an advocate of each partner contributing proportionate to their income level and their ability towards that goal so that they have some real skin in the game. I guess all of this is to kind of say that you're not helping someone unless you're giving them the knowledge or giving them that ability to learn how to graduate on their own into their own ability to do what you can do already.
Exactly. You teach a man to fish and he can fend for himself. Hit a man with the fish, he'll wonder why you did it.
We're not hitting anyone with fish today or any day. That's not something that we would ever recommend you do. Is this why we don't go fishing? But no, evaluate your life from a financial perspective. This is trying to create that alignment with your partner that is so important in achieving joint goals.
Yes, I guess we kind of come to the point of what would have been her Netflix show, and we get to The Purge. You know, the time where we start to actually get rid of all the stuff that she didn't like or you may have cluttered. This is the time where you've assessed, you've decided, you've assigned your little marker of how happy or sad or bad or any emotion these things assign to you. Then it's time to just lob it out the door into a bin.
Or if you're creating a podcast, lobbing out those clips that didn't quite make sense and should not be part of the show, but usually find their way to the blooper reel in the end.
Yes, I find much joy in editing and throwing the little odd things at the end to see if Christine catches it.
And throwing me under the bus.
And for the third of you that make it to the last 30 seconds at the end, actually catch all the wild things that show up every random episode or sometimes every other, just whenever there's something odd.
To show that we're only human. We don't get it right all the time.
We have to feed the algorithm. The watch rate must go up. The likes must go up. The subscriptions must always go up. Line must go up. That's from a different episode.
Different episode. Oh my goodness.
Line goes up, brings joy.
This part was supposed to be about the actual decluttering of physical stuff. So if we're deciding that life is not fundamentally about stuff, we have to address, as Marie Kondo encourages us to, these feelings of attachment that we get to particular objects. And it's not just the odd object. So based on the one time that I watched the show, it's amazing. And you can kind of do this exercise for yourself as soon as you're confronted with the need to let something go. How does that feel for you? Does it spark something in you and not joy? Sometimes people have a lot of trouble letting things go or changing habits or patterns that are comfortable or easy. So the way that Marie addressed this, and I thought this was brilliant, she asks the question, did it fulfill its purpose for me? And I would go a step further if you're looking at maybe reselling some old items, getting some cash to accelerate a different goal. Can it be useful to someone else? Can it move on and have another lifespan of usefulness after the time it's had with me? And I'm going to read a quote from the book. Every object has a different role to play. Not all clothes have to come to you to be worn threadbare. It's the same with people. Not every person that you meet in life will be a close friend or a lover. Some you will find hard to get along with or impossible to like. But these people teach you the precious lesson of who you do like, so that you will appreciate those special people even more, end quote. So there you go, Marie, not even all about stuff here. It's our emotional attachment, and it's understanding how these attachments cause us to cause us how to treat things differently. So in her process of letting things go, it was this process of letting them go with gratitude for the purpose that they had fulfilled.
So could I try to understand this? So if you have that kind of emotional attachment to a picture of the Queen, will you stop spending $20 bills?
Oh, no. Well, you know what? There's this concept here that all things, object, and people and experience fulfill a purpose. $20 fulfills the purpose of getting me XYZ at the store. There you go.
So we should learn history and value the guys on the 50 to the 100 as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Name them, I dare you.
History, right? Our memories are short. It's a funny thing.
Yes, one of them used to talk to his dog for advice.
Oh my goodness. We're not going there today. But let's get back to this principle of letting things go with gratitude. Comprehending the purpose that the things that you surround yourself with had in your life. Acknowledging it, being grateful for it, and then being able to move on. And this concept that everything, whether it's a person, whether it's an experience, it taught you something. Not every lesson is good, not every lesson is positive or fun, but it changes us. And this is life. Life is made to be experienced, and part of that experience is saying goodbye to the things that are no longer suited for us. And I think this is the true magic of tidying up. This detachment that can be created from these things that should just be things that we've somehow made out to be more because they're ours. And we've talked more about how when you own something, you value it differently. So there's a detachment from a financial perspective that has to happen as we assess what we actually need. And that assessment can start with taking stock of what we already have, how useful it is, how good it is, and if it still works. So as we close today, I want to leave you with 2 quotes from her that I thought were very helpful and kind of drop the bomb a little bit that this is not all about tidying, but I'll leave that for you to decide. And I quote, "When we really delve into the reasons for why people can't let go of something, there are only 2. An attachment to the past, or a fear for the future." End quote. Second quote, "The question of what you want to own is actually a question of how you want to live your life." End quote. So today, if we're deciding what matters to us and how we want to live our lives, this process of prioritizing, of detaching, and this process of using the dollars to get to our goals that have the minimal impact in our personal satisfaction in life can be so helpful. And of course, the added bonus to relationships, to sharing and aligned goals, and to decluttering our spaces can create mental space for us too. So that's how we saw this unlikely crossover of Marie Kondo's book.
And if it seemed a little excessive, or sometimes this could be sometimes hard to achieve, and this is just lofty goals, just remember that her herself after her third kid gave up on a lot of this, but this is still an important exercise to go through to help you fix your finances, reprioritize, and just figure out what is true value to you.
Well, and I think that's the whole point here. In personal finance, in your personal space, there is no perfect. There is enjoying today. There is having enough today and having enough tomorrow. There is creating a life for yourself that holds true value, detached from money, detached from things. That is the true power of these concepts. And funny coming from a financial planner, I know, but we have had experiences in our own lives that have taught us that life is so much more than money. And the best lives are the best things in lives are our lives are the things that we've experienced. So until next time, take care.
And all the best.
Decluttering.
Embracing entropy.
Well, Well, we all know. I mean, the kids can go anywhere they want, inside or outside of the house. That's even worse. Oh my God. Oh Lord, what am I trying to say?
This episode brought to you by CFS.
Oh my God. Please don't take my children.